Good afternoon, friends, and thank you very much for being here this afternoon for our regular briefing for the week. I have here with me Mr. Gautam Bambawale, Joint Secretary East Asia, who will be responding to questions on any issues relating to the forthcoming visit of the Vice President to China. And what we will do is we will focus first on the visit of the Vice President to China. I will make some opening remarks, following which any of you can ask any questions on that aspect. After that, I'm willing to answer any other questions that any of you may have on any other subjects. I think with those brief remarks, let me try and focus first on the issue which is primary here today, and that is, as you are aware, the Honorable Vice President Shri Hamid Ansari will be visiting China from the 26th to the 30th of this month. This visit is at the invitation of his counterpart, Vice President Li Yuanchao. This is Vice President Shri Hamid Ansari's first visit to China. Also, for your information, the last visit of Vice President of India to China was in 1994 by the then Vice President, Shri K.R. Narayanan. Vice President, as is usual, will be accompanied by a high-level delegation. The Minister of State Independent Charge for Commerce and Industry will be with him. Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman will be the minister with him. Along with her will be 4 other members of Parliament. They are Mr. Hukum Narayan Yadav from the Lok Sabha. He is from Bihar. Dr. Bhalchandra Mungekar. He is from the Rajya Sabha, Maharashtra. Honorable Mr. K.C. Tyagi from the Rajya Sabha. He is from Bihar also. And then finally, Mr. P. Rajiv from Kerala, also from the Rajya Sabha. In addition, the Vice President's delegation will have senior officials, and Foreign Secretary Srimati Sujata Singh will be in the delegation, along with Mr. Shwash Pawan Singh, the Secretary to the Prime Minister, to the Vice President, as well as Mr. Gautam Bambawale, who is the points person relating to all our matters relating to China, along with other countries in East Asia. In China, the Vice President will first be visiting Xi'an. In addition, he will be visiting Beijing. For those of you who are interested, Xi'an is part of the Shaanxi province, and that's where there is a lot of India contact in terms of, as you know, the Chinese traveler Xuanzang who had visited India, and he had gone back, and in the monastery there had transcribed Buddhist texts into Chinese, and these are very precious texts which still exist in Chinese, and therefore the choice of Xi'an as part of our cultural contacts with China. Now, the Vice President's visit to Beijing is going to have 2 components. There is a bilateral component whereby the Vice President will be ceremonially received by his counterpart with a guard of honor. He will have delegation-level talks with a delegation of Chinese officials led by his counterpart, Vice President Li. And during this discussion, both sides are expected to discuss all matters of bilateral interest. Following this discussion, there will also be a banquet, which is normal for bilateral interactions. I understand that we expect substantive outcomes based on the discussions between the 2 Vice Presidents. Obviously, you will ask what they are. We will communicate to them in due course, communicate with you in due course. Vice President is also expected to meet the Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang, as well as call on President Xi Jinping in the Great Hall of the People. Now, apart from the bilateral aspects of Vice President's visit, he will also participate in a trilateral summit on behalf of India. At the trilateral summit meeting, there will be the host China, the President of Myanmar, and India. This summit is to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Panchsheel. Many of you are aware that the Panchsheel was originally enunciated in a trade agreement between India and the Tibet region of China in 1954 April. Also, it was issued as part of a joint statement on 28 June 1954 during the visit of Prime Minister Chow En-lai to India. Similarly, on 29 June, it was adopted as part of the China-Myanmar joint statement in Yangon, and hence the 60th anniversary of these two events is being celebrated in China. During his stay in Beijing, Vice President will also use the opportunity to interact with the Myanmar President, who will be there. The detailed program will be provided to those of you who are traveling with the Vice President as it is finalized shortly. As you are aware, India and China have maintained regular contacts at high levels. This is part of our strategic communication with each other, and Vice President's visit is part of this sequence of visits and regular exchanges of visits between our leaderships. It is expected that it will add new content and substance to our bilateral relations with specific outcomes. The floor is now open if any of you would like to ask questions on any aspect of this visit. Just a minute. Please raise your hand. Yes, please bring the microphone.
Sir, is any business delegation from India is also going along with Prime Minister, along with the Vice President? And who are going, sir? Any big businessmen like?
No, I don't think there's any business delegation which is accompanying the Vice President of India to China.
Does China's Vice President, what is his position in the hierarchy? Is he, does he have powers? Is he, ceremonial?
Well, as far as the Vice President of China is concerned, it's a constitutional position. I think all of you know that. And he is one of the top leaders of that country. So I think there is a lot of similarity between the Vice President of India and the Vice President of China.
Also, we've told you that they will have delegation level talks with substantive outcomes. So this is a visit which will have bilateral content. Yes, Ranjit?
Is India also planning similar celebrations in our own country?
Well, we have had some events here in India. For example, recently there was a reception where the ambassador of Myanmar, the ambassador of China to India, and the Foreign Secretary were together on one platform to mark this 60th anniversary of the 5 principles of Panchsheel. So some events have been held here, and there is likely to be some more events in the coming months.
Yes, Dr. Akhilesh Suman.
Sir, as you yourself has said that other than the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, there had been trade agreements between India and China, especially through Tibet. So do you think that this trade agreement is being implemented, and is there any need of moderation in the original Panchsheel agreement?
Well, the government of India thinks that the 5 principles of Panchsheel are valid and are important even in today's world. And if you look at those 5 principles, you will see that they are very general principles which we believe should govern state-to-state relations, country-to-country relations, even today. So all the 3 countries, which is China, India and Myanmar, feel that this is relevant even today, and that is why we are jointly celebrating the 60th anniversary of the first enunciation of these principles in 1954. As the Joint Secretary External Publicity mentioned, that the first time these 5 principles were mentioned were in April 1954 in a trade agreement between India and China regarding trade between Tibet and India. So that was the first mention of these 5 principles. But then again in June in 1954, the 5 principles found mention in joint statements that were released when the then Premier of China, Chou En-lai, visited India on June 28th and in Myanmar on June 29th. So that was a reiteration of the same principles which were first enunciated in April of 1954. And we believe that these are general principles which should govern relations between countries and between states.
Yes, just a minute.
Besides these politicians, who are the part of the delegation?
I think I explained to you there were senior level officials, that is including the Foreign Secretary, the Secretary to the Foreign Secretary Srimati Sujata Singh, the Secretary to the Vice President Mr. Swash Pawan Singh, and Joint Secretary East Asia Mr. Gautam Bambawale, who is here with us. Yes, Naz?
After this visit, what will be the next highest level visit between the two countries?
You are aware that Prime Minister is traveling to Brazil for the BRICS summit. It is our expectation that the leaders of the two countries will be meeting there. Also, you are aware that we have invited the President of China to visit India. This will happen later during the year. I had mentioned to you that after the meeting with between External Affairs Minister and the Special Envoy of the Chinese President, Mr. Wang Yi, when he came here, that we expect 5 to 6 senior high-level interactions during the course of this year. This is the first of those interactions after the new government has settled in India. Anyone else? Otherwise, we'll move to something else. Well then, I will ask Joint Secretary East Asia if he would want to leave because he has some other commitments. Is that all right if you don't have anything else? Thanks. Yes, the floor is open for any other questions that you may have. Anyone? Since none of you have. Yes, Ranjana?
Sir, did the EAM speak to the West Bengal Chief Minister because she's supposed to fly to Dhaka later? And did they touch upon Tista and they'll be...
I don't think you should put words in my mouth when you ask that question. But let me tell you that the External Affairs Minister is preparing very diligently for her visit, which is the first solo visit by her to any country. She leaves in a few hours' time. She has been in contact and being prepared. As part of her preparation, she did speak to the West Bengal Chief Minister, Ms. Mamata Banerjee, earlier this afternoon. Yes. Yes. Please hold on till the mic.
Sir, on this Iraq issue,
can we go anybody else on this, and otherwise then we move one by one. Anyone else on Bangladesh? Pardon? Yeah, please give the mic. Let's go one by one.
Anything on land boundary agreement, sir?
What does anything on mean?
I mean, can you elaborate?
What do I elaborate on? This is a matter which is now with Parliament. It's in the Rajya Sabha. It will be discussed there. Yes, sir. Anybody else on Bangladesh? No, you don't get a chance to finish yours. Anyone else? Yeah. On Bangladesh?
Sir, the border state Tripura is getting the fake currency from the Bangladesh. Is this issue will be discussed in the...
let me assure you, all issues of importance will be discussed. We intend to raise the issues of importance for us. They will raise issues of importance for them, because after all, what is friendship about? Friendship is about cordiality and response to each other's concerns. Yes, anyone else? If not, we go to the next question, and that's regarding Iraq. So anyone else should ask me only questions regarding this after them. Sure.
Sir,
and then we'll go to the next topic after that.
So I was asking you about this Anjuman is Haidari, the sect of Shias. It claims to have enrolled some 1 lakh people who are ready to be transported to Iraq. They are in talks with different airlines. They are saying if they won't be allowed in Iraq, they might use alternative route of Jordan, Turkey, or maybe Iran also. So, do you have a strategy in place to deal with the situation?
Listen, I deal with India's foreign policy. You are aware that we have issued an advisory and reiterated it again yesterday that Indian nationals are advised not to travel to Iraq. That applies to every Indian national. That applies to some of you who were trying to travel to Iraq. It applies to everybody else. Our view is that currently the situation is not appropriate for anyone to travel to Iraq from India. That remains our considered view, and that applies across the board. Yes, sir. Just one bar. I'll answer all questions.
Okay,
Can you please speak a bit louder?
Indian nurses in Iraq allege that the Indian embassy is not working very well because they are not getting any assistance from the Indian embassy.
Who?
A nurse.
Which, I mean, it's a generic term. Please tell me where.
Tikrit.
Pardon?
Tikrit.
Tikrit, yes. Well, let me try and tell you something. Since you asked about nurses, I can confirm to you now that apart from those 46 nurses who are in Tikrit, there were nurses in the conflict zone elsewhere. And I'd like to inform you that we have been able to rescue and evacuate 2 other nurses who were elsewhere in the zone of conflict. Now, as regards the nurses in the zone of conflict, I have told you yesterday, and let me reiterate it today again. We are in touch with them. This is a difficult situation because they are in a zone of conflict which is not under the control of the Iraqi authorities. However, by our last communication, as of now, none has intruded into the hospital. Number 2, they have electricity and food supplies. We are working with a variety of people to try and see how best we can move them out from there, but please understand that the land routes are not, it's not possible to use land routes. And in such situations, while we will work, we will also advise caution. And that we've done yesterday in terms of requests and advice to all of them to ensure that they do not move out of their places where they are staying, given the security situation there. Yes, sir. One by one.
हेलो, महाराष्ट्र के कुछ 10 लोग इराक में फंसे।
कहाँ पर? जरा जोर से बोलिए।
बासरा में फंसे हुए हैं।
जी?
बासरा।
बासरा?
हाँ।
जी जी।
वहाँ फंसे हुए हैं, वो उनकी फैमिली कह रही है कि उनको कोई सपोर्ट नहीं मिल रहा है।
जी। एक बार तो पहले आप जान लें कि बसरा कितनी दूर है जोन ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट से। बसरा है सदर्न पार्ट ऑफ इराक में, जो तकरीबन 500 से ज्यादा किलोमीटर दूर है कोई जोन ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट से। तो ना तो अभी उनकी कोई सेफ्टी का प्रॉब्लम है, ना कोई सिक्योरिटी का प्रॉब्लम है। अब रही बात कंसर्न की, और मैं जानता हूं कि भाई लोग, ये नॉर्मल बात है कि लोग कुछ कंसर्न रह सकते हैं। मैंने आपको बताया था कल, और फिर आज कहना चाह रहा हूं कि हम एक कैंप ऑफिस खोलने वाले हैं बासरा का, बासरा में भारतीय एम्बेसी का, और वहां पर जब लोग हमारे जाएंगे मदद करेंगे। लेकिन जो प्रॉब्लम आप जो कह रहे हैं वो प्रॉब्लम है लेबर की, वो ऐसे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है सिक्योरिटी की, ना कोई प्रॉब्लम है सेफ्टी की। ये प्रॉब्लम है लेबर की, और ये लेबर प्रॉब्लम हम इसको एड्रेस कर रहे हैं। जैसा कि मैंने फिर से आपको बताना चाह रहा हूं, हम इराकी गवर्नमेंट के साथ एक कमेटी तैयार किए हैं। ये कमेटी हर लेबर प्रॉब्लम को पर बात करेगी, क्योंकि इनमें से कुछ लोग, मैं ये जो आप कह रहे हैं वो नहीं, लेकिन इनमें से कुछ लोगों के पास वीजा नहीं है, इनमें से कुछ लोगों के पास कब आए प्रूफ नहीं है, इनमें से कुछ लोगों के पास आइडेंटिटी कार्ड्स नहीं है। तो जब उनको जाने से लौटने से पहले ये सब चेक कर तैयार कर सकते हैं। वैसे बसरा का एयरपोर्ट खुला है, ऐसा कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, ना कोई फंसे हुए हैं बसरा में, क्योंकि बसरा का एयरपोर्ट खुला है, ना वहां कोई सेफ्टी का प्रॉब्लम है। एनीवन एल्स? यस, वन बाय वन। यस, Enjoy.
Sir, about these 40 odd people who are in captivity, what is the situation there? And what about the others, about 20 others who are in the conflict zone? Is there any effort to get them out? Have any of them been moved out in the last 24 hours?
Srinjoy, let me address one by one your questions. Those in the conflict zone, yesterday evening I mentioned to you 17 had been moved out. Those 17 were in Baghdad, and since then they have moved out of Iraq. I just announced a little while earlier that 2 nurses who were in the zone of conflict, these do not pertain to the 46. These 2 nurses were in the conflict zone, and they were rescued and evacuated out of that conflict zone. So 2 who were in the zone of conflict other than 46 have been rescued and evacuated. They are now in Karbala, which is again a safe place. We will ensure that they return. We are providing for and facilitating their tickets. We have bought their tickets since, and they will fly back to India as soon as possible as flights are available. They are now in the safe zone. That brings back to your question, which is the second question, but I will answer it because I think it's an important question. That is about those Indian nationals who are in captivity. Let me repeat again, for those skeptics who think that we are in the dark about it, we are not in the dark about it. We are aware of where, let me put it another way. As of today, we again have confirmation from multiple sources that these Indians remain in captivity and they are unharmed. We are in touch with a variety of sources who have confirmed this to us again, and we will continue to follow this and work on this. Yes, sir.
On Iraq, the Home Minister has said that all options are open and all. So, will it be possible for you to elaborate what are the options?
I think it would not be fair for me to elaborate on what the Home Minister said. I'm certain what he said is self-evident. All options would mean all options. We've also said previously that our efforts are on every front. These are on the front of what I termed then as front door, which is diplomacy. There are also, I said, efforts through the back door. And finally, I said that there were efforts and measures underway through trapdoors. So that covers every option. Let me also add a little bit of information for you. The External Affairs Minister herself is monitoring this situation, and she has now summoned all Indian ambassadors in the Gulf to come to Delhi. The meeting of all Indian ambassadors in the Gulf in Delhi on 29th. So we are exploring every option. Every effort is being made. Yes, Geeta?
Ambassador from Baghdad also be coming for this meeting? Just wanted to know because of the situation.
Fair enough. While the situation in Iraq will be discussed, obviously, because it is a major issue currently facing the government. However, the ambassador in Iraq is required to stay there to focus on much greater ground level issues, and he will remain there. In fact, as you are aware, we have strengthened our mission there with additional senior level officer, and we intend to strengthen it further with several other officers, even as we open camp offices in Basra, Najaf and Karbala. Yes, Rajiv?
Akbar, whether this meeting of envoys from the Gulf region will also focus on the latest situation obtaining in the Kurdish region of Iraq, where the Kurds have taken advantage of the volatile situation and run over Kirkuk, their capital historically. And when the Kurd leadership met John Kerry, they indicated to him that they may be seeking independence from Iraq. Now, how does it impinge on the security and foreign policy aspects of India and the all security, as also the current hostage crisis, if any?
Rajiv, let me try and tell you that we've summoned these ambassadors to understand the complexity of the situation that we are facing, both in Iraq and in the region generally. That said, what you are saying will certainly be part of those discussions. And we will, once we have a brainstorming, we get different viewpoints on this, we will try and formulate an understanding of what is the drift of this situation. Certainly we have views on this. As you are aware, Secretary East, Mr. Anil Wadhwa, is spearheading this. He handles all that region. This is to strengthen strengthen our understanding and the effort that Mr. Wadhwa is spearheading in this region. Yes, sir, I have good news for you.
So today the Sri Lankan government have released 24 fishermen and Tamil Nadu fishermen and plus some boats. And how soon we can expect the rest of the 44 fishermen are likely to be released?
Let me add to your information. That means you're not following me on social media. It's not 24, there are 46 Indian fishermen who have been released. These fishermen, we are working the modalities of bringing them back. Be rest assured that this does not take very long. We are working how to bring them back, and we will communicate to you. At this stage, 46 Indian fishermen have been released, and I can confirm to you this. Pardon? I think I told you about the fishermen. Once we have information about other things, we will share with you. Please be patient. Yesterday you were very worried about us not doing anything. Today I have some additional information for you. I'm certain that this information is not fully to your satisfaction, and I understand that. But let me assure you, we are making all efforts. And you can see in the past few days how our efforts has yielded fruits. We will continue to make those efforts. Yes, Shailendra.
सर, पीएम मोदी ब्राजील जाएंगे ब्रिक्स समिट के लिए, लेकिन जो इनको इनविटेशन मिला है ब्राजील प्रेसिडेंट की तरफ से फीफा फाइनल देखने का, क्या वो इसमें शामिल होंगे या नहीं? क्या उन्होंने कोई फैसला इस बारे में लिया है?
मैं जानता हूं कि आप लोग बहुत उत्सुक हैं फुटबॉल के बारे में, और हाँ, आप लोगों की रातों में भी आप लोग फुटबॉल देख रहे हैं, और मैं भी उनमें शामिल हूं, क्योंकि फुटबॉल एंथुजियाज्म इज अ ग्लोबल फेनोमेनन. That said, I understand that there are no plans for the Prime Minister to be present at the football FIFA final. Anyone else? If not, I will end this interaction. Thank you very much.